I do not believe President Biden should have opened his mouth and commented on this case. I think it's absolutely inappropriate for the president to start taking sides without knowing what the evidence is. The prosecution did not prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt. Had I been the prosecutor, we would have proven the case beyond a reasonable doubt because I wouldn't have made the mistakes that they made. So President Biden should not be commenting. Politicians should not be commenting. I've seen all these comments. Is it a travesty of justice? No, because the prosecution didn't prove its case. So therefore, it's not a travesty of justice because it's up to the state to prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt. And the state of Wisconsin failed to do that. Let me make that clear. The state of Wisconsin failed to do that. That's why they lost. Had there been a better set of prosecutors, yes, they could have had a conviction here. They should have had a conviction here.
What comes next for Kyle? We want to bring in our legal expert, Vinoo Varghese. Vinoo, thank you so much for being with us here on Live Now from Fox. I understand that you are out in New York right now. Those protests probably right around the corner from you.
Well, the other side of the bridge. I'm on one side of the Brooklyn Bridge. They're on the other side. So close, but not that close.
Got it. Well, we're not going to talk about those protests right now. We want to talk about what happened inside of the courtroom earlier today, this coming as a surprise to many, and then to others, they saw this coming. What were your thoughts? Just yesterday, we talked about the possibility of a verdict even coming out today.
So yeah, last night you and I spoke and it was clear, and I said to you, I predict there'll be a verdict today. Now, a couple of days ago, I had said, when I was on with you, I think it was Monday night, I had said that it wouldn't surprise me if he had been convicted of some of the charges. That didn't mean I thought he was necessarily getting convicted, because I thought the prosecution did a poor job throughout the trial. And the only time they did actually well was in summations. But, as I mentioned, I teach trial skills to Harvard Law students. And for me, and for a lot of people like me, I mean, there aren't that many people like me, but for those of us like me, we believe the opening is the most important part. And you've got to lay out for the jury what your theory of the case is. And by the time that they got through the trial, the prosecutors were bumbling. They made a lot of mistakes. And it was unfortunate because, in my view, Kyle Rittenhouse, the prosecution was correct. I mean, in the sense that it was a proper prosecution. Now, I make my living criticizing prosecutors and fighting prosecutors, even though I was once one, but that was, over 16 years ago. But, as a law and order person, it's important for me to see that justice be done right. So for me, it's important that there are good prosecutors, because if they're good prosecutors, then there's less of a chance of an innocent person going to jail. And here, these guys just messed up enough times, and they had a case that they could win. Now, in analyzing this, it's my view that they should have left it to the two dead people. And why do I say that? The third person who testified basically gave reasonable doubt, which was the guy who had his arm blown off or his bicep blown off. And he said that Rittenhouse only shot when he pointed the gun at his own gun at Rittenhouse. So at that point, the prosecutor should have thought, well, you know what? We're planting reasonable doubt into the minds of the jurors. Let's not do that. And said, you know what? I'm sorry for what happened to you, but we're not going to bring a case against Rittenhouse for you. They didn't make those smart decisions. And if they had just left it to the two people who had been killed with the footage that they had, and had they done this correctly, they could have gotten a conviction.
So you think that the prosecution royally messed up in this, and it could have gone in a different way had things been done differently?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. They messed up. And listen, Rittenhouse, he's one lucky kid. And I'll tell you why. He got the best draw of a judge that you can have. I mean, I would hope that my clients get somebody like this. Unfortunately, 99% of the judges are not like the judge that you saw in the Rittenhouse trial. This guy made some rulings that sometimes from a purely legal point of view, you got to scratch your head. I mean, I am always in a case involving violence. I make motions as a defense lawyer to exclude the prosecution or to preclude the prosecution from trying to use the word victim. He took it further. He precluded the prosecution from using the word victim, which was great. I like that. But he went so further, and he said they can be referred to by the defense as rioters, arsonists, looters. I mean, so the prosecution from the beginning was playing from behind. This is now how it is in courts across the country. The defense is always playing from behind. So Rittenhouse caught these breaks by having this judge who made these fantastic rulings. He went even further. He said the prosecution could not inquire into Rittenhouse's background or his connection to the Proud Boys. Now, there's a lot of rhetoric out there about him being a white supremacist. I have no view on that. I have no idea whether he is or he isn't. That's not the issue. But the point is that the Proud Boys has a certain connotation to it. And once he took the stand, now I would not have allowed the prosecutor, if I were the judge, to bring that out in their direct case, meaning what they call the case in chief when they presented evidence. But once Rittenhouse testified, they should have been allowed to cross-examine him on that. The other thing, which I think was critical that the judge precluded, was not allowing the prosecution to go into this video that Rittenhouse had posted, where he was looking at some shoplifters and he said if he had a gun, he'd shoot them. I mean, really? That, I believe, is absolutely relevant to his state of mind as to what he was thinking on the night that he was in Kenosha. So this judge, in essence, bought the victory for Rittenhouse. And that combined with the bumbling of these prosecutors who screwed up throughout and only put on a good face at closing arguments. Rittenhouse, is a free man today, a free young man, and with a lot of factors that went in his way that 99% of criminal defendants don't have going their way.
So there's speculation right now on what could be next for Kyle Rittenhouse. Some people talking about the possibility of federal charges. What are your thoughts on that?
It's possible. I certainly think that that's possible, but unlikely. And here's why. The federal statute for a criminal federal civil rights prosecution, you have to prove that he intended to deprive that you using a public facility that brings it under federal jurisdiction is something that he intended to deprive these individuals of their civil rights. Well, the feds have a problem here, right? So unlike the Ahmaud Arbery case, which you can make the argument is a federal civil rights violation because you have 3 white men basically chasing down and shooting a black man on a public street. Here you have Kyle Rittenhouse. He's white. The people he shot and killed were white. The feds are going to have a much harder time trying to bring a prosecution. I don't see a federal prosecution in Rittenhouse's case at all. If they did, it's a loser. This is where it should have won. If the state had been nothing but inept and nothing but been sloppy, this is a case they could have won, and they didn't. And in my view, Rittenhouse should be spending tonight in prison and not a free man on the street.
Okay, let's talk defamation suits because I think that's where a lot of people's heads are at right now. It is said that Kyle technically could sue media outlets, the president himself, about the way that he was referred to prior to the trial and then also during the trial. What is the legality of all this? Do you think that it is a possibility?
Listen, in this country, you can sue anyone, right? So the fact is, yeah, he could certainly bring a lawsuit, but the question of being successful on that lawsuit is a whole different ballgame. And here's the problem for Rittenhouse. He's become a public figure, right? So, and there are different reasonable interpretations of his behavior, right? So you can take a look and you can make the inference that he's a white supremacist. I'm not saying he is. I have no idea whether he is or he isn't. All I know is that he's some kid who shouldn't have been there. He shouldn't have been there. He shouldn't have been out there with the gun. And look, nobody else was shot that night except the people he shot. No one else was killed except the people that he killed. So this is the problem for Rittenhouse. He can sue whoever he wants. Good luck suing the president. Good luck suing whoever it is. Now, let me take that a step back a little bit. I do not believe President Biden should have opened his mouth and commented on this case. I think it's absolutely inappropriate for the president to start taking sides without knowing what the evidence is, right? Because while I say Rittenhouse should have been found guilty, I mean, let me say this clearly. The prosecution did not prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt. Had I been the prosecutor, we would have proven the case beyond a reasonable doubt because I wouldn't have made the mistakes that they made. So President Biden should not be commenting. Politicians should not be commenting. I've seen all these comments. Is it a travesty of justice? No, because the prosecution didn't prove its case. So therefore, it's not a travesty of justice because it's up to the state to prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt. And the state of Wisconsin failed to do that. Let me make that clear. The state of Wisconsin failed to do that. That's why they lost. Had there been a better set of prosecutors, yes, they could have had a conviction here. They should have had a conviction here.
All right. Any last thoughts, Vinoo?
Listen, I think he's going to have a future career in media, and it wouldn't surprise me if he becomes look, I've seen the memes that are out there, and it's unfortunate because I don't think he's a hero. I think he was a knucklehead. I think he was a young guy who had an inflated image of himself. I mean, at 17 to get an AR-15 and start thinking you're going to patrol the streets. And as I said, the question you got to ask yourself is, who else died that night? Mm-hmm. No one, other than the people he shot. Now, there are people that are there. You got to blame the police for not controlling the situation. You got to blame the governor for not sending in National Guards after that situation with Jacob Blake. He should have had the whole state on high alert. And this could have been prevented. There was no reason for those 3 people to be shot and 2 of them to be killed.
Vinoo Varghese, thank you so much for being with us here on Live Now from Fox and joining us throughout this trial as the Ahmaud Arbery is probably going to be the next point case that the whole nation will be watching. So we'll have you on for that and look forward to those conversations.
Thank you.